You've heard us talk about how much we love Zencastr.
We've told you about how awesome their podcasting platform is, how easy it is to host, record, and publish Adventures in Collecting with their all-in-one web app.
Well, now they're giving you, our listeners, the opportunity to support us and the nearly 30,000 other podcasts powered by Zencastr.
That's right. Now you can invest in the podcasts you love through Zencastr's crowdfunding campaign.
For as little as $100, join a community of other investors who seek to help Zencastr and independent podcasters like us succeed.
If you're interested in investing in Zencastr, go to wefunder.com/Zencastr or click the link in our episode description below to claim your slice of the future of podcasting.
That's wefunder.com/ZENCASTR.
Are you ready, kids? Get your parents' permission, check your mailbox, and grab your shopping cart. It's time for the Adventures in Collecting podcast.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Dave. Welcome to Adventures in Collecting, where we talk toy news, culture, and hauls,
along with our journeys as collectors. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Adventures in Collecting.
Hi.
Dave, we are back.
Eric, we are.
We're here.
We are.
And we're not going to talk about wrestling figures this week.
Yeah. We are not.
Taking a little break. After
a couple weeks in a row, right?
Yeah. So 2 weeks in a row of talking about some fine wrestling figures. And then our normal news break. But today we are back with another guest, Dave.
We are. As is the norm.
Yeah, the norm. Remember when we weren't an interview podcast every week? I like what we've evolved into, though. We've worked hard to get here.
How did anyone stay on board? How?
Yeah, if you've been,
people are like, "Oh, is there going to be like a normal episode?" I'm like, "These are like, if anything, you don't want the old version."
I will say we have.
Maybe you do. I don't know, but
we have a list of topics for like just in case of like technical emergency, like where we have to go off the cuff. So if all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, why are they talking about toys they brought on road trips with them?" That's why.
So what were your hauls since last time we talked about this? Well, it's been 2 years, so I've gotten a lot.
Yeah, it's been a long 2 years. So let's not bury the lead, right? Let's
No, absolutely not.
Right?
No burying the leads.
So as you're all very intimately familiar at this point, it's certainly no famine when it comes to sourcing new toys for our collections. Whether it's a long-standing industry juggernaut churning out new plastic from beloved IPs and fandoms, or someone like this week's guest delivering original characters through a crowd-funded campaign, we really do still live in an exciting time to be a collector. Joining us on this episode, well into a scorching hot and successful Kickstarter, is Rob Post, owner of Savage Crucible. Welcome to Adventures in Collecting, Rob.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure. I think it is the understatement of the year so far to say that your Kickstarter has been wildly successful. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So before we hop into your history with toys and Savage Crucible, as this is a show about collecting, the first question we ask all of our guests, what are you currently collecting and what are some of your recent pickups?
So my most recent pickup is Mondo Man-at-Arms. So I hadn't really been collecting the Mondo, but they finally got me with the Battle Cat. So I thought that was too great of a piece to pass up on, and I thought that'd be a great display piece. So now I'm going back and collecting all their previous releases on the Mondo Motu. So we'll see. That's my most recent. I'm pretty happy with that.
And those are the 1/6 scale ones, right? Those the big ones.
They are the big boys.
So how does it feel like I haven't I actually haven't even seen one of those in person. Like, yeah, I'm thinking like back to like toy events and things. How is it like, you're so used to like a 5-inch Masters of the Universe figure. What is it like having, a 1/6 scale Battle Cat?
Well, I don't have the battle kit yet. That was on a pre-order. So, but the 1/6 Man at
Or
Arms is
Man at
pretty
Arms, yeah.
big. It's kind of like the equivalent in a lot of things, like when you opened up a Sentinel or a Galactus, and you're like, my God, this thing is huge. Like you just want to put it on your kitchen table so everyone has to ask you about it, kind of thing. It's pretty much the equivalent. Like it's a showstopper.
A showstopper, yeah. A collection centerpiece, right?
Yes, very much so.
Both literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Ayo.
Yeah. So your journey to starting your own toy line is an unusual one. Tell us how you got there.
So I was a collector, and I was collecting Mythic Legions at the time. And this is 3-4 years ago. And I was kind of looking for some hobbies to get into besides just collecting. I remember I thought that I would collect Mythic Legions, jump into that, and it might take me a little while to collect some of the first releases. And it took me about 2 weeks, honestly. So then I had to figure out something else to do. So I was looking into customizing. I thought that had a lot of potential with painting. I used to do some wargaming and things like that. So I did enjoy painting. But I didn't really I don't have any ability to sculpt myself with any amount of aptitude. So I was watching a show or something, and one of the creators was talking about a Form 2 printer that they use at their shop. And I looked it up, and it was reasonably affordable, meaning it didn't cost like a couple $100,000. So I ordered one. It showed up a couple days later, and started printing something. I had my first print in about 12 hours from getting it. And from that point, I started getting on certain websites looking for sculptors to make some extra parts for my figures because I wanted some barbarian characters that just weren't readily available out there in the to go buy. And so while there is a multitude of things or toys to buy these days, even just a couple of years ago, there's a lot of genres that are sort of overlooked, especially with more hardcore stuff. Everything seems to be a little bit more bright or kid centric for that purpose, which is absolutely fine, but not what I was looking for my own personal collection. And so I started 3D printing, hiring some sculptors just to sculpt stuff for me personally. And from there, I actually decided to just create a website on a whim, and I started selling my parts. And like I said, that was like 3-4 years ago. I think that was 2018, December 2018, when I started doing that. And from there, we started MAFC, and it kind of blew up from there in terms of just interacting with sculptors and creators and things of that nature.
So, you mentioned, My Action Figure Customs, and it's very well known within the Mythic Legions community in terms of a place to get custom pieces. Uh, did you find that people kind of had the same tastes as you? When you were putting up those pieces, like the stuff that you were making for yourself, did it translate well to things that like other people wanted to purchase?
Yes, actually. There were a few hits and misses, and sometimes there's a sculpt that just comes out of nowhere and everybody just absolutely loves that no one even asked for. But in general, yes, I can say that the things that I was looking for and the things that the artists were creating were definitely hitting with the customer base. There's no doubt about that. I can tell you, like, from the first day I started selling like 20 or 30 pieces to, like, I think my best month, we probably did like 60,000 in one
Whoa.
month. So, um, just, in comparison, that's just, the huge difference in unanticipated demand that you can't really account for. Right. And I think a great example is like the Draven head sculpt, which was his vampire head. And I call it the sculpt that no one asked for, but everybody wanted, because not one person asked for that sculpt at all. But it's been one of the best sellers ever. And it's, like I said, it's just something that no one really ever asked for. We just kind of did it on a whim, and it was a big hit. Now, I think the thing that some of the tastes that I see out there that I don't really resonate with are like a lot of sweet woodland creatures and things like that, kind of whimsical stuff. Doesn't really fall into a lot of the fantasy that I was reading as a kid. I was usually reading more hardcore stuff, so I think that's something that might be like a hole or some sort of a subgenre that appeals to certain people. based on what kind of fantasy tales that you were reading growing up.
Well, we have this thing that we like to say, on the show in terms of toys. I didn't know I needed that until I saw it.
Mhm.
So,
Exactly.
there are a lot of toy companies out there that excel at doing just that, and that kind of is the theme of the day, really. Like anything can be a toy now, like literally anything. Um, and sometimes you just need to like see it to be like, oh, I I I need that now.
Yeah,
Wow.
like
Yeah.
we have a toy gelatinous cube now. Like,
Yep, yep. And like we have Alf as a toy all these years, all these years later.
mhm.
And people were, prior to NECA even putting out that Alf, people were taking uh Black Series Chewbacca and Black Series Ewoks and 3D printing Alf heads for them, and,
Hmm.
and like chopping them up and kit bashing them and stuff. So like even before he was officially a toy, people
The toy.
really wanted an Alf toy.
Yeah. That's pretty wild. Oh yeah, I think I had a stuffed Alf. Actually, I think it's about the only thing you could actually buy of Alf, right?
I
Yeah.
had that as well. I did back in the
Mm.
day.
Yeah,
Um,
and the other thing too is just like with the world of Mythic Legions. I mean, there's such a cottage industry around customization with them. Like it's I mean the line itself, you know, is kind of designed to be kit bashed and customized, but you know people like yourself and all the numerous other artists that are out there producing pieces that fit on those body types. It's just it's incredible to see. You walk up and down toy shows, especially here in New Jersey, with Legions Con and Toy Con NJ, like just table after table of people that are making these like super cool stuff for Mythic Legions.
yeah, I was gonna say it seems like it's like if you're collecting Mythic Legions, that seems like that's part of what you do is like, okay, how do we customize this? So when you think of the customs that you were doing, was it a logical progression for you to scale that up to make your own toy line?
So I had went down the path of actually looking to license some stuff and manufacture some parts previously, and that didn't work out. And so when you think about it from a toy company's perspective, the average toy company is usually is run by artists. If you think about it, usually most indie companies are usually based on the artists involved. They have some talent or ability in the toy making industry. Either they came from a toy company or they're a sculptor, or something to that effect, right? And so with being with so many different artists that work within MAFC, I mean, there's a good about 5 or 6 sculptors. Um, that was something that we had, and a lot of the sculptors that work for MAFC are actually professional sculptors who do work for Mezco, Hasbro, Lego. Um, so it was sort of a unique position to be in, to have that many talented people. And we would always talk about sort of the things that we wanted to see and the limitations we had in trying to have custom parts that only worked on a couple of bodies, and there's like new bodies that we wanted, right? So that was sort of where it came out of. We had the knowledge. We certainly had artistic ability. So yeah, I think it was a natural progression to get there.
Now you mentioned the background of somebody who typically starts, a toy company being kind of the artist or designer, and yes, you had the time to kind of build these relationships with artists and designers, but you know your background, like we kind of alluded to at the top of the show, is kind of a roundabout way of how you had gotten into the industry. Does any of your background in finance, like was any of that informing any of the decisions that you made, or accounting, excuse me, right? Accounting, not finance.
So the finance is actually more correct in this instance, but yes, actually, I mean, I have an operations background, a military background. I'm a disabled veteran, Arabic linguist, and military intelligence.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So I think all of my decisions are based on. Well, let me say that 97% of my decisions are based on solid numbers and logic, right? So there's 3% in there that goes on gut or something that I just necessarily want. And I think that is the real difference in some of the things that I harp on, because from my perspective, things don't make sense right now in the toy industry. There's a lot of things that don't make sense that people should be asking some really hard questions about. And so, from an operational standpoint and understanding what I know about the industry, timelines weren't making sense, pre-orders weren't making sense, the amount of money involved wasn't making sense. And so those are things that I am trying really hard with our company to make sure that we don't do, and that we do right by the fans. So, because we were having this conversation today. Why do you have to have a pre-order for only a month or 2 months or a week if you don't get your figures for 2 years?
Yeah, I mean,
Fair.
we're sitting here shrugging. So
Yeah.
I mean, they're not in production. They're not sending the money to China. Why?
we do not know the answer.
Mhm.
Someone can answer that for me. It'd be great. So,
And
yeah,
I mean,
those are just.
in some cases
Go
too,
ahead.
like they're completely, Hasbro has eliminated pre-orders now entirely from the plan for the Lucasfilm products. So like it is a very weird time
Right. Not
to
every
collect.
company does it. There are some companies that do open up their pre-order window all the way up to when they're about to put in the order, because they want to maximize the amount that they buy from the factory. And so there are companies that do that, but most don't. Most try to create, and it's a form of fear marketing. Basically, FOMO. You're going to miss out if you don't. It forces you, and there is some psychology behind it in terms of if you can delay a purchase, you'll delay it into infinity. But like I said, if you have it up to a couple weeks before you're going to place your order, then there's no reason to really worry about it. Some people are going to be early birds, get in there first. Some people are going to build it up over time. Some people would actually buy more if you had a longer window, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's always going to be those people that wait till the last minute. That's just how it always works. So, but in terms of fans, my personal take is I don't want to try to limit the window in which they can purchase to such a limiting degree. There should be a wider window to be able to purchase.
Yeah, I mean we've seen a multitude of examples at this point from indie makers where that's been successful for them. Where it's not been it's like, hey, listen, we're gonna have a nice long open pre-order window, and this is the finite day when it's closing. We're gonna be upfront about what that day is, but you have time, and you know this is how it's gonna work, and yeah, it's stress free, and it tends to we've not seen any issues with with that approach so far. So speaking of the approach itself, Savage Crucible. So here we are. We've arrived at the actual creation of the line, and you've mentioned your liking to fantasy, and kind of that more like hardcore fantasy. But how did you actually decide on the theme for Savage Crucible?
Well, there's certain things that I really enjoyed. Despite their problems as people, Howard and Lovecraft, were their Conan and their Cthulhu universes were very interesting to me. They were always fun, always mysterious. There was always a mysterious element to them. So that was sort of the one part of it, and the next part of it is there's just so many great sci-fi movies over the years that brought in some really cool concepts in terms of worlds, and I thought that it would just be a unique idea, not really unique in itself, but unique just to kind of bring it all together. And I really wanted to bring a universe together that allowed other brands to come into it. And so there's so many great little subgenres of fantasy and sci-fi that we all, or most of us, really enjoy, but don't have the same kind of popularity to be mass produced. And so to create a vehicle where you could introduce some of those characters to be able to collect side by side, I think would be, well, at least I thought would be pretty awesome. And so that was sort of the basis of the concept of Savage Crucible, someplace where you could literally, as in a Crucible, mix several different brands together to bring it into its own world.
Yeah, and from the designs that we've seen, from everything from that Piranoid to the to the lizard guys, it's there is quite a mix of creatures and humanoid characters.
Oh yeah, no, and I mean, and I was a big D&D fan growing up, and it's been great to watch Stranger Things and see that world kind of come to life in a different way that um, that you didn't think was possible 20 years ago. Like no one, it was way too far down on the geek scale to ever be in mainstream America, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if only Gary had a few more years left in the tank and got a chance to see it come kind of full circle, I'm sure
I
he would
know,
have had some a heavy amount of vindication.
absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean the Kickstarter has been a massive success so far. Were you surprised at how strong of a response it got right out of the gate?
Yes, yes, actually, very, very much so. In fact, people have questioned like the funding goals, like why I did the ways I did, and I was like, well, I had no idea that like we might have just funded at like 129. I didn't know, like I had no clue where the numbers were going to be, and I did not imagine we would have gotten this far. I thought it was going to take us like at least 3 weeks to get above like 250 or 300, and I mean we did it in less than, I don't know, 10 days. About 10 days we got to 300 something. So yes, I am very surprised. I mean, I thought that this would resonate with people, but I was not cocky. I was definitely had a lot of anxiety going into it, and just kind of thinking, well, sometimes you miss the mark, sometimes you hit the mark. We're about to find out. So
Yeah, it was one of those things where, we had noticed on social media, especially on Instagram, like people were posting, kind of pictures and like, that it was coming and, just kind of the overall design and the presentation. And also, it always helps when you have D Amazing, taking some photos. But like, we just seeing some of those images and like the fact that there were already, hand painted prototypes, right? Because those are the ones that he shot are prototypes, right?
yeah, they're check models. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're made in silicone molds.
Okay. So, but like even seeing those is like it's like, oh, this looks way farther along, like than usually projects like this kind of look. And I think that really helped. The initial boost is like, no, look, this is what these things are actually going to look like, and they look really sweet. But two, again, riding that the popularity of what Four Horsemen's doing. I mean, be existing in that world, that kind of culture. I think too, like the background with my action figure customs. I think you like really hit the nail on the head with this project, and it, it was one of those ones where before we had even chatted, before we even knew what Savage Crucible was, just looking at those initial photos was like, this is gonna fund fast. People are already like
Yeah,
super jazzed about this, and we're a week out from the campaign even launching. So yeah.
yeah, it's like the perfect time for that kind of like deep fantasy kind of stuff to really just kind of be at the forefront where it's almost like a new, I don't want to say golden age for it, but like as far as action figures and collectibles goes, thanks to the new popularity of like even something like D&D or like even the Pathfinders and such of the world, like
Mhm.
Mythic Legions and now Savage Crucible, like you're starting to see this pop up more and more.
Yeah, I think it is a golden age. I think that with adult collectors and D&D going so mainstream that people have touched on it in some form or fashion, that I think they can see the characters and the ideas for what they are and how much interest they bring to them. Where before people, that was always the problem with science fiction and fantasy. A lot of people shun them for being childish or something when we were younger, but they actually get you have the ability to explore ideas and then the untethered from some of the politics that day to day bring to it, right? So just on the story side of it, so you get to explore things. That was a great thing about Star Trek. right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to explore societal problems from a different angle without all the baggage. It was, and Starship Troopers. I mean, that was a big shock with those. And the whole society, like you're sitting there cheering, and then you don't realize till about maybe. Well, some people didn't realize till the entire movie, but some people didn't realize who they were actually cheering on some fascists there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So just interesting ideas all around, and fantasy and really lets you explore a lot of those topics. So.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
This segment is brought to you by our friends at Chubsy Wubsy Toys. A traditional mom-and-pop toy store in Little Falls, New Jersey, Chubsy Wubsy Toys brings you the best new toys from the brands you love without the hassle of pounding the pavement searching for them at larger retail stores. Visit them in person at 106 Main Street in Little Falls, New Jersey, or online at ChubsyWubsy.com. That's ChubsyWubsy.com. And tell them Adventures in Collecting sent you.
Pop into a new career with CGC, the world leader in pop culture collectibles grading. CGC is seeking world-class Funko Pop experts to lead a new division dedicated to authenticating and grading collectible toys. This is an incredible opportunity to help build a new grading service in a hot collectibles category. Think you can play the part? Apply today at cgcgrading.com/careers. That's cgcgrading.com/careers.
Breaking news! Manscaped now sells beard products. That's right. They are once again revolutionizing men's grooming with the brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit.
From a beard trim to a fresh shave, the technology behind the Beard Hedger Pro Kit allows you to shape your signature beard look. Now you can finally use Manscaped products to make your drapes match your carpet by going to Manscaped.com and using code AIC for 20% off and free shipping.
It's time to tame your mane. No one likes a weird beard, Dave. So say goodbye to all your stubble trouble with Manscaped's Pro Beard Kit.
Eric, it all starts with the Beard Hedger. This thing is a juggernaut of fixing faces. First off, this cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. So no more messy drawers full of extra add-ons. That's right, face grooming doesn't need to be hard. Get 20 different beard lengths in just one guard. Plus it's waterproof, so you can shave in the shower to avoid all that hair in the sink. The titanium-coated T-blade is tough on hair, but smooth on your face, leading to single-stroke efficiency. That brings satisfaction one stroke at a time.
Kit doesn't end there, though. They've created 4 dermatologist-tested formulations for your post-trim care. First, there is the beard shampoo and conditioner. You need to remember all your hair is different. Your beard hair is more coarse and easier to damage than the hair on your head. That's why the kit has made shampoo and conditioner specially designed to moisturize, reduce ingrown hairs, and replace natural oils and promote beard health. Next, the kit has Manscaped's Beard Oil, an essential piece for your main facial accessory. No one wants a guy whose beard is brittle and dry. The oil relieves dryness both on the beard and the skin beneath, while adding a little shimmer and shine, making you look extra fine.
Cap it all off with the Beard Balm, a pomade that shapes, styles, moisturizes, and tames for a sculpted look. It also comes with 3 free gifts: a beard brush, a comb, and scissors to ensure your beard is ready to impress.
So what are you waiting for? Get 20% off and free shipping with the code AIC at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code AIC. Manscaped Beard Hedger. 1 stroke, 1 guard, 20 lengths.
And now, back to the show.
So, aside from the actual theme of these figures themselves, clearly a lot has gone into the consideration with, design, and scale for that matter. So, outside of wanting these figures to play inside multiple worlds, like you had mentioned, what were some of the things that you took into consideration when you were designing these full figures?
So for me, I've really always enjoyed Mafex and Figure Arts and Monster Art figures. I think they have some of the smoothest, best articulation. Um, and a lot of them, like with Monster Arts, do a really great job of hiding joints
Yep.
without really breaking up the sculpt. Now they're really expensive, and Bandai has a great factory which they own, and so that allows them to do things that the average indie toy company can't do because they're not controlling it from that standpoint. But when I did find my factory several years ago, Dave Proctor is our production manager. He's a former employee of Hasbro. He's a founding member of Boss Fights and just a world class sculptor and engineer when it comes to toys. I mean, the amount of knowledge that he actually has is pretty breathtaking, actually. So I actually wanted to do some things. I wanted double joints. I wanted double knees and elbows that were better hidden than the average domestic figure that you got. And so the articulation was really up there on an important scale, on the important scale rather. So that was important. The next part was pop and swappability. Being D&D, that world, that ability to customize as well. I realize that not everybody has the time to actually sit down and paint and customize figures and think through that. That's very time consuming when you think about it. And so a lot of people have kids and other commitments and spouses and things like that. And you can't spend that much time doing that. So I wanted to make sure that out the gate, I had a very large catalog of parts that gave people the ability to pop and swap without having to paint, to really create unique characters. And so tomorrow with some of the stretch goals that drop, you'll start to see like these little knickknacks that go onto the figures that really help you differentiate them from a bullwhip to cuffs to a navigation kit, the things like that you can really outfit each figure. And so the ability just in the first three waves, I think there's definitely over a dozen of every piece in terms of forearm, shins, waist pieces, deltoid armor, shoulder armor. There's over I don't know how many different heads. So you could literally in each wave army build your entire wave and not have one figure wearing the same armor, much less the same little accessories, and giving everybody unique weapons. So there is a rhyme and a reason to it. I have heard some whining about how this is possible, and the only way it's possible is if there's the demand there, right? So far the demand's pretty strong, and we feel pretty good about it. So we'll be able to continue that based on our current projections. So I don't see a lot of massive repaints going on over and over again. That's not going to be something that we're going to really entertain. So if you see old parts, they're going to be on a new body with a new head. But that's part of the pop and swap mentality, is that you can reuse parts, but not use them in the same manner over and over again. So you can have a really diverse shelf.
I think too that's one of those things where people exist on both sides of the coin when it comes to reuse. And I think when it's done right, it's less of a reuse and a repaint and more of a reuse of engineering. You're taking the time to make these really smooth joints, these body parts that that are engineered really well. Why not reutilize those parts to make new characters? It's just silly to think of it any other way.
No, I completely agree. There's just no reason to have the same armor on the same skin.
Yep.
You can take any of the armor from the lizards and you can reissue it on a different body type, and you
Yep.
get to reuse that armor. So and you can think of all the multitudes of body types that you can squeeze out. So there's a lot. There's a lot. You just got to plan ahead and kind of think deep. And I think the biggest problem most indie companies have starting out is cash. They're really strapped for cash. This is an expensive endeavor. And as you alluded to earlier, we're way farther along because we spent the money to do that. And just the average person just doesn't have that kind of money in reserve to do those kind of things, because it is expensive. It truly is.
So that initial investment that you made into the project ahead of the launch of the campaign, I mean, like you said, that's definitely the difference maker here. And I mean, it was evident before the campaign launched.
Yeah, I mean, we had 2 full-time sculptors for 2 years.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I think you can imagine what we have in reserve in terms of characters. So
You've been
yeah,
busy.
yes.
Yeah.
And then if you look at just our check models, we have 6 different bodied figures in check models. Normally, you see one check model of one body type, and we have 3 copies of each check model and 6 different characters. So that in itself is about a $25,000 investment.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Now, another really cool thing is this kind of speaks to the, that I would say sense of history in like the fantasy world, and that's the inclusion of a Frank Frazetta designed character. How did that opportunity come up?
So it came through MAFC about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. I approached the Frazetta Museum, particularly Frank and Lori Frazetta, to license some parts to sculpt and 3D make to put on some Mythic Legions figures. At that point, there wasn't a Mezco Def dealer out there. And there have been some really nice statues made. I think maybe Fison did one of their, molded flesh, whatever bodies. But that was pretty much it out there. I think there was like a shorter 5-inch figure or something, but not really my speed. And so I just wanted to make a really nice Def dealer. I'd seen some people make a custom of it. That those people were able to sculpt it. But so I approached them, and they were very gracious and humored me, and were just really polite and let me license the parts, or license that Def dealer figure in terms of making out some 3D printed parts. And it did fairly well. People were really excited about it. And no one had ever approached them about doing this. And I had to explain to them, they're like, well, where's the body? I'm like, well, no, there's the body someplace else. Like, they just put these parts on it. And, they were just very gracious. And I mean, they just were nice people about it. They could have just told me to go away. It wasn't worth their time, to be honest. I mean, they barely made any money off the topic. I mean, relatively speaking, to like someone like Mezco or somebody else pays them for the licensing fees, right? So they were just really gracious to me. And when I approached them again, I had a different strategy about how I wanted to go about this. And I didn't want to do Def Dealer out the gate. Knowing Frank's library of characters, there's just so many awesome characters that he has that no one's ever put into an action figure form. And barely a few have been made into statues, but that's just a few. I mean, he's got hundreds of characters that have potential. Just fantastic characters. So that was the idea. That was the pitch. I'm going to start with a character that most people, the average person, isn't going to know. Only hardcore Frazetta fans are really going to know about it. And kind of build up to these more well-known characters. And that was the game plan. That was the sales pitch. And frankly, no one had ever approached them like that before.
Yeah, I mean, what a pick. I mean, he does have so many toyetic designs. I mean, that they're begging to be action figures, especially now with like the technology and the way that these are designed. I mean, you could really bring those drawings to life. To life, air quotes, the plastic life. But considering now that you've licensed the Death Dealer for my action figure customs, and the what's the official name?
It's Warrior with Ball and Chain.
I was gonna say Warrior with Ball and Chain. Can we expect to see more from the Frazetta library coming to Savage Crucible down the line?
I would count on it. Yeah.
Cool. I think that's the that was the expected answer, but
Yeah.
All right. So this next section, this is our follower Q&A. So if this is the first time you've ever listened to Adventures in Collecting, hi. Welcome to the show. Hope you're enjoying this episode. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at AIC_podcast, where when we have a guest, we will make an announcement on social media and give you the opportunity to submit questions for this very segment on the show. So this week we have culled the number of questions to 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 questions for you today from our followers. Dave, would you like to do the first one?
Yes. Yes, I absolutely would. So friend of the pod at Craig's Stuff asks, assuming these will be available at retail down the road, what will they be priced at?
Probably somewhere around 55, I would imagine.
Okay. Next one comes from at Fortress Matimus. Fortress Matimus. I like that.
Yeah,
It tracks too for this episode. This is good.
and must be said with a deep voice.
With so many races, body shapes, and colorways, how compatible will these Kickstarter items be with future line offerings?
Very. In fact, we told people that our plan is to have the dwarf in wave 4, and a good number of the parts will fit on the dwarf. Like any of the deltoid armor will fit on the dwarf. Any of the hands from the barbarians, they will fit on the dwarf. So I think someone previously asked, is the dwarf going to have middle fingers? And my response is he's already got them in wave 2. So yes, no, everything work with the dwarf? No, it's a different body, but future body styles, yes, there will definitely be an eye towards compatibility and reverse compatibility. We will do other body types, certainly, but that doesn't mean that some parts can't be compatible, even if you go up in a body size or down.
All right, next one is at Johnny_C_dagger. And Johnny asks, was there a particular reason why the character packs are not compatible with the $15 slates?
Yes. The first answer is that we only came up with the slates and put them in the Kickstarter 2 weeks before it started. The plan was always to have a $25 army builder figure. And when we got the final pricing for that, we just kind of inquired what a sort of a blank figure would cost to make. And it was so cheap that it allowed us to offer basically a figure in molded plastic with 2 or 3 little paint apps at $15. And I knew that it wouldn't appeal to, or I shouldn't say I knew, but I thought that it wouldn't appeal to the masses per se. The price point certainly appeals to everybody, right? But um, it was meant to appeal more to customizers. And it's sort of that one of those figures that when I was thinking of the concept, I don't know if this will be true, but I was like, okay, I'll buy these. These will sit in inventory all year long, but customizers can keep coming back and buying those to make new customs with. It's a lot more palatable to buy a $15 figure to customize than to buy like a $40 or $50 figure to customize, right? And so the packs were never meant to go on the slates. They were always meant to go with the deco figures or the savage figures. And so that's why there is no heads that go with them, because the slates are literally meant for you to customize and paint yourself. So if you're going to paint them, then you can take a head from any figure and paint it to go on there. And that's sort of the idea behind it.
It's a blank slate. Now I get the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
And that's I think Bill Dranowski over at Dorklair is the one that suggested that name. We were trying to come up with names about a year ago instead of saying army builders. And so our army builder names are slates, as in blank slates, and savages. So
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we hit the last question, I actually talking about the slates and the kind of Kickstarter kind of exclusivity aspect. We didn't mention the Kickstarter exclusive figure. So there is a specific colorway that is only going to be exclusive to the Kickstarter campaign, right? And then convention.
Yeah, it's called. It's an idea I came up with. It's called a conclusive. I don't know. That's the name I came up with. I don't know if I can claim credit for the idea. I'm sure someone's already thought of this before, but I don't personally like the idea of having convention exclusives. The idea that some person has to fly 800 or 900 miles cross country to buy a $35 figure to make sure that their collection is complete, or fall prey to eBay and some scalpers who just happen to live nearby. Not saying that you shouldn't do that. I welcome anybody an opportunity to make a decent dollar. It's just as a collector, it's kind of a turnoff. And so I just don't personally like that. But I do like the idea of people coming to conventions, seeing you and getting some kind of reward out of that. So I thought it would be a nice idea to kind of make it where, once a year you put out a figure while you're doing the convention tour, because our plan is to basically go to 4 or 5 conventions a year, spread out through the country to give everybody a chance to, come out and see the stuff. And also just to show it to people that haven't seen it. I mean, because there's way more people that haven't seen this than they've seen it in toy collecting worlds. So I just thought it was a better idea. And I also thought it would be nice to be able to offer those figures as contest items throughout the year to drive interest. That's sort of the opportunity. Because when you think about it, gave away a figure once a week, 52 weeks out of the year. It's not that much. Like, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that thing, but you've got something going on for the entire year. So why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a perfect way to, kind of seed extra interest too. I mean, that's, it's
Or to get somebody on board who wouldn't have been normally. Like, because there's that's the one, thing with Kickstarter is like, there's always that risk, but when you have something like that going on, it's somebody going like, oh, let me see what this is all about, and if this is for me, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm totally on board with this, which is awesome.
Yeah, and what about the collector that can't drop $180 or $200? Like, you're gonna deprive your daughter of something so that you can have a $35, $40 figure that someone's scalping because. At the end of the day, it's just a toy, but at the same time, like, it is your hobby, it is your passion. So I don't want to take that away from anybody. So that's where the idea came from. It's sort of a balance between creating a chase figure in a way, but also making it actually attainable.
It's the most heartwarming Savage Crucible that could be. That could exist.
Yeah,
it's the most heartwarming Savage thing. And that actually takes us to our final question of our Q&A, which comes from friend of the pod, friend of everyone. Let's be honest. Everyone's favorite satirical toy account. Our favorite French expat living in the Netherlands. No, Norway. At Toy Farce asks, exactly how quote unquote #savage are you ready to be?
Oh Lord. That's so scary coming from him. Like, I don't even know how to put the proper caveats on this statement. I enjoy the memes. I enjoy it all. Like, it's hysterical. I don't take things very personal. So I enjoy it. I'm looking forward to whatever you come up with, sir. That is
yeah, he's just the best. He's the best.
Yeah,
truly.
Because he
truly is.
There are a lot of accounts that I'm not gonna name anybody, but like hard air quotes that like are satirical, but like he gets satire. Like he really just chef's kiss, like from day one out the gate, and he's such a nice guy. Absolutely,
like he gets satire, but there's also like the care, and passion for.
Well, he seems to be really in touch with a lot of different brands, right? Like, he really, has his pulse on it. And actually, I think I've already seen one that he hasn't published related to Savage Crucible. And it did make me laugh pretty hard. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if he'll ever share that. I don't know if I want him to share that one, but it was it was good. It was really good.
So to answer his question, just savage enough. That's
no children need be harmed, but grown men crying is perfectly acceptable.
And with that,
just savage enough feels like a sticker or a t-shirt or something.
I could see it now. Savage Crucible. Just savage enough.
Just savage enough.
exactly as savage as we need to be. That's
Hashtag savage.
well, before we let you go, that is the end of our Q&A section. So congratulations, you've survived the adventures
We
in
did it.
collecting Q&A section.
And thank you everybody for sending questions.
Yes, thank you as always. Before we let you go, Dave, would you like to fulfill your role as this podcast's James Lipton and ask our final question?
Why, yes, I would. So the final question that we ask all of our guests: what is your favorite and/or strangest piece in your collection? It can be one of each, or it can be both.
And this is tough. This is really, really tough. I have a Ram Man, original Ram Man from Motu. I just loved that figure as a kid. It doesn't even work anymore, and somehow I managed to hold on to it. I have to say that's like my favorite toy that gives me a memory. Because I definitely wanted to be Ram Man. The strangest toy I have in my collection. It's made out of plastic, and it's adult oriented, and can be seen on TV without a caveat. Let's see. It's a dangerous question, gentlemen. My favorite. That's pretty tough. I'm not gonna lie. That is pretty. I mean, I do get a glee every time I walk in the shop and look at the Sentinel I have. That's given me a lot of happiness here in the last couple of months. Just to see that big old thing. I think outside of that, it might be. I think one of the best paint jobs that was the most subtle was there was this. I think it was a Mafex Venom, and they painted the base like this dark blue, and then went over it with a black, and it was just two colors, but there's just something about it that just looks fantastic. Like just to get that much play out of two colors is just really impressive to me. So I'm just trying to think of the things that like give you insight into me. So yeah, I think those are my answers. Yep. There's
That's
three,
awesome.
but yeah.
Hey, no, great answers. Yeah, and that
gotta love Ram Man
yeah.
too. I used to love bashing my Ram Man through stuff like he Masters of the Universe or otherwise. I was like, this guy can go through things.
Yeah, I definitely remember that one being in the bin like years later. Like when I started playing with your Motu figures. That's that 7-year age gap. I got to enjoy things like they were. None of my friends knew who any of the Masters of the Universe characters were until they came over to my house, and I was like, "No, this is."
Stinkor still worked.
Yes. Oh yeah, it did. Oh yeah, it did.
You were a plague on other people's parents. Those kids would come home and tell their parents they wanted that figure, and they were trying to go to the store to find it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that time it was you had a better luck at a flea market at that point.
That's the only way. Yeah, flea market or like a garage sale. That was it. That was your only chance.
Yep, because that was way pre eBay and everything. But yeah, fun time.
Maybe a comic shop.
Yeah, it's true.
Maybe
secondhand at a comic shop. Yeah.
How many toys did you guys get where some kid just got too old and was like, "I'm done with them. Here's my whole collection." Like, I think that happened to me like twice.
I know that I got a bunch of Star Wars figures that way. Like later.
That didn't happen
on.
For me so much because I was, my cousin and I were the same age, and we were like kind of first in that regard.
Right.
So like everything went through us first. So that was more you, Eric, where it was my stuff that you were getting.
Yeah, I inherited a bunch of toys from you that way, like full collections, like those Rambo figures, the Karate Kid ones, the Masters of the Universe,
wrestlers,
Turtles, wrestlers. Yeah, like literally all of the most iconic toy lines.
Joes.
Yeah, how could I forget G.I. Joes? Literally like the most iconic toy lines of the 80s got dropped into my lap as a 5-6 year old. which was
And
awesome.
the only one that really kind of continued on through you was Real American Hero.
Yeah, Real American. And I mean, Star Wars, there was a little bit of a gap, but that one picked
I
back up
figured
again.
the Turtles not go all the way through for you. I don't know what you're.
No, I mean, they stopped in the. By the time I was getting the Turtles from Dave, they were still making them, like those.
You were
those,
on
like,
the tail end, though.
Yeah,
You're getting the really horrible pizza delivery Michelangelo or whatever.
exactly.
versions.
Yeah, the like crazy, some of the mashups were cool, but like it was the really like throwing shit towards the wall to see what kind of sticks Ninja Turtles. But yeah, I do remember though going to garage sales and picking up like people's collections of some of the stuff that that Dave had and that I already had. So like I can remember going and like filling gaps. We the town we grew up in actually is known for having the longest annual running Labor Day street fair in the entire country.
Okay.
And there were always cool like like people selling comics and toys at that street fair, and just walk up
and tons of garage sales the same weekend.
Yep. And that was the thing, like the walk from our house to where the street fair was, it was also townwide garage sale day because of everything that was going on in the Labor Day street fair. Everyone would do their garage sales, so you'd hit up the garage sales on your way to the street fair, or vice versa. So I remember Labor Day being, when I was younger, being like a thing I would save up for to try to fill some gaps in those collections.
Oh, yeah. Awesome, guys.
Well, Rob, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us tonight. Before you go, please let our listeners know, where can they find out more about Savage Crucible online? Where can they back the campaign? Let them know where they can find you.
So the website is www.savagecrucible.com. You can go to Kickstarter to back the Kickstarter campaign. Just type in Savage Crucible in the search bar, upper right-hand corner. And follow us on Instagram, #Savage Crucible. And there is a private Savage Crucible Facebook group where we poll people and ask questions and do some reveals as well. So
awesome. And we'll make sure we include links to all of those in the show notes. So guys, just hit the show notes and we'll put the link to the campaign right there, as well as the website and everything. So Rob, nothing but the best of luck for the rest of the campaign.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you again for joining us on the show, and let's definitely have you back on once we have some figures in hand.
Awesome. I really appreciate it, guys.
Dave.
Thanks, Rob.
Dave, send us home.
Everybody, go do a Google search for some Frazetta.
Thank you, dear listener, for hanging out with us today. Subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen, and then tell your friends to do it. Thanks also to Joe Azari, the golden voice behind our intro. Our music is Game Boy Horror by the Zombie Dandies. Find more about them both in our show notes.
Follow us on social media at AIC_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Stop by and say hi, show us your toy hauls, and share your toy stories. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode.
Don't try this at home. Void where prohibited and some assembly required. Each sold separately, not a flying toy. Consult a physician if your toy run exceeds more than 4 hours.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer, Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.